Good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible in the online? So you must have seen the Anthropology paper 1 of this year 2025, and in today's session we are going to have a proper analysis as well as the discussion like how we can deal with the demand of the question. All those students who are connected with me, they know this thing already, that I am repeating the same thing again and again, that from the past 2 years UPSC had changed its pattern of asking the question. Like if before 2023 you will see the paper, the pattern of asking the question, it was direct, somehow direct, but from the year 2023 UPSC started having some application based question more than the direct questions. Like in this year paper also UPSC repeated the same thing, but here I would say the year 2025 paper, it is very analytical and balanced. So here there was a ground where you can add on the new things, as well as there was also a comfort couch where you can easily sail through the static knowledge. So in today's exam we will see how the things they can be managed and how you can deal with the question. So all those students who are aspiring for the year 2026, this analysis is going to be extremely important for you, because it is very important, so that if you know this is the demand, you can mold the content according to you. Although there are some we can say some non-conventional questions being asked in this year exam, but still those questions in terms of their application, they were manageable. If you will ask me what was the level of the question paper, I won't say this, because what I feel, it would be injustice for all those students who attempted it like during their exam, or during their, like when they were sitting in the hall, there was huge kind of exam pressure, there's a kind of sentiments, emotions. So therefore we cannot say while sitting in a comfortable position that exam was the easy, paper was the easy. The person who was writing, for them it was, yes, we can admit it was tough. Why? Because during that time period it was tough to, like it was difficult to understand the demand of the question. But if you know how to deal with that, it would be manageable to you. Fine. So I would say, I won't say that it was easy, it was difficult, it was moderate one, but I would say that it was manageable. Like if you know the decent understanding and if you know the facts, the things, you can manage it. Fine. Okay. Okay, now let's start. This is the paper, you know already, like the pattern of the paper is like that, the question 1 and then the question 5, this question and this question. They both questions, they are being considered as compulsory one, and these are 10 marker. These seems to be open-ended and small, but the thing is that these all questions, they were not so much easy to manage. Like if you have very less time, you can just write it down on a very frequent basis. It was not the case. Fine. Already on the YouTube there are some sessions available where I have taught or like explained the complete pattern, how you can just attempt the exam in a stipulated time period. I mean how you need to approach. If you haven't watched that video, you can watch that as well. It was by the name lecture 5, and here we have explained about the PYQ trend analysis. You can find that lecture. Fine. Okay, now let's start. First of all, I just want to give you an overview so that you will get to know which part to pay more attention and which one is scoring. This thing you know already, there are 28 questions being asked by the UPSC, but you don't need to attempt all. The question 1 and question 5, they both are compulsory, so 5 question each. It means 10 questions, they are compulsory. Out of the 18 questions available, you need to just attempt 9 questions. So in totality, you need to attempt 19 questions out of those complete 28 questions. This is the thing that you know already. Fine. Now, here I am just going to give you the analysis of the complete, out of the 28 questions, how many questions being asked by the UPSC from the certain pattern. So this thing you know that paper 1, it includes mostly two things, but one more unit 1.8 from the archaeology. So in that way we have 3 parts for the paper 1. One is the socio-culture anthropology, then one is the physical anthropology, and then one is the archaeological anthropology. So I haven't like fancified them with a different color diagram or these and that, but I have given you the information. Information is this, that in the year 2025, out of the 28 questions, 12 questions being asked from the socio-culture anthropology, from unit 2 till unit 8, unit 1.1 to 1.3. If you will compare with the 2024, 11 questions being asked in the year 2024. In the year 2023, again 11, in the year 2022, 12, 2021, 14 and 2028. This is the kind of pattern that we can see. It means, in terms of the 28 question, socioculture is having a decent holding. Another challenge is this, that UPSC is not giving a complete set of socioculture, complete set of physical, they are giving intermixing. So we can't have this tense that if I am very much strong in the socioculture, I can deal with the paper. This is not like this kind of myth you are not going to hold on. And I would say this should not be done. Now let's see about the physical anthropology. So physical anthropology 2025, 10 questions being asked. In the year 2024 again 10, in the year 2023 11, 2022 10, 10 and 13. Again the same thing that you can see here is that more or less UPSC is maintaining the trend, means a mixture of socio and physical question that are in the same ratio is being maintained by the UPSC. Now about the archaeology, see, you will say only one single unit, unit 1.8 is part of the paper 1, but some topics related to the paper 2 also, like the Miocene related thing, although you will say ma'am it's in the part of 1.8, but still in the unit 1.8 some part or some connection with the unit 1 of the paper 2 is maintained, and that's being followed here. So it's only unit 1.8. So I would ask you, whenever you are preparing for your exam, let us suppose for your optional paper, so have a good hold over archaeology. Again I would say archaeology, you should have a very good hold over it. The reason, because the archaeology, it is holding a very good hold in the paper 1 as well as in the paper 2. Like next we are going to have a discussion for the paper 2 on another day. Today we are going to dedicate completely for paper 1. Now I am not going to just only explain you the level of the question. The reason behind that is because it seems to be easy for us, because now we can find the information in our static syllabus, but our objective is just to understand how we can deal with the demand of the question in limited time period with the exam pressure. Fine, so this is what we need to understand. Okay, so now with that point, let's start with the section A. In the section A, you know there are 4 questions. I just want to show you. See, this is the section A. In the section A, we are going to start with the question 1. It has 5 compulsory questions, then 2, 3 and then 4. Fine, so it has 4 questions. Now let's see how we can deal with that. Fine, okay. So this is the kind of a question being asked, Mendelian and non-Mendelian traits. Okay, all of those who are watching this, kindly don't be passive. We are here trying to do one exercise. Exercise is in this way that you need to share what could be done in the introduction, what could be done in the body part, and what could be done in the conclusion. If you have this thing sorted in your mind now, your 50% of the pressure would go on, and you can do the paper, or you can actually attempt the paper in exam like condition and can prepare yourself for the year 2026. Fine. So now let's have the same exercise. So we are going to have a basic mechanism, like for each and every question there should be introduction, there should be body, there should be a conclusion. If we are sorted with this point what to write, then we can deal with the any type of question. Another thing, here we are also going to create something extra if we know related to the topic that we can use in terms of example. Fine. Okay, now see, this question is asking Mendelian and non-Mendelian traits. First of all, let me give you a very important thumb rule. If there is any question which is open-ended and using the in between jointing word and, then in those questions you have to tell first either the relation of two terms. So while explaining the relation, I can touch which type of approaches or which type of dimension. First one, either I can talk about the similarities or dissimilarities, basically the differences. Fine, this is the first thumb rule. Second, if there is again and within any topic, so what I need to specify, so this is again a thumb rule, you need to explain the application or role of one for other one. Means some topic are going to be like that, in which two topics like regionalism and autonomy, let us suppose this is given. So for that we have to talk about the application of the regionalism for autonomy, or how regionalism can lead to the differences in the autonomy. Means we have to show the application or the role of one for the other one. Means some sort of application, practical application. Fine. Other one, uses of one for the another. Fine. So this is how we can basically deal, and this is how in this method we have to deal with the question. Now again another thing, the basic thing, like as I told you, I have already taught what we can do in the introduction. So as soon as you see the question, what you can do for the introduction, this question Mendelian and non-Mendelian traits, this is requiring a simple introduction where you have to mention about the Mendel. So in the introduction what you can do is, in the introduction you can mention about the Mendel law. This thumb rule always keep in your mind whenever you are dealing with this type of question. Now this is something that you have in your mind. Again you see that there is a and. Now you need to see what is the nature of this question. This question is not asking about the Mendelian application for non-Mendelian traits. No, they both are independent as well as related terms. So what I may explain here, I can explain the relationship. I can explain the relationship of both Mendelian and non-Mendelian traits, where I have to explain about the sort of differences in terms of ideology of both, sort of assumption in terms of both. So it's a 10 marker question. I can't write so much. I can only limit 1.5 page. So for that, how you are going to divide that? So first 1 to 2 line, basically 2 to 3 line, just to explain about the introduction, where you are going to explain about the Mendel law. Then you are going to create a heading. Heading would be the Mendelian traits. And then you are going to explain about the Mendelian traits. For example, you are going to explain about the segregation, about the dominance. I mean, in terms of independent assortment, you will show here then Mendelian traits. See, every single time whenever you are having any question, try to create transcript like that only. There is no need of writing complete answer. Just have the blueprint like this, your work is done, because you are understanding the demand of the question. Fine. So you are done with the Mendelian traits. Here most important thing is you are writing example. So we can write down the example of ABO blood group system. That's application of that. After making this as heading, we are going to create another heading, non-Mendelian traits. And then we are going to show some sort of polygenic inheritance. We are going to show some sort of codominance, some mitochondrial inheritance. These kinds of things we are going to specify. Okay, so then we are going to explain about the body part in such a way. Then what we can do in terms of the conclusion? So in the conclusion, we have to highlight. Okay, so another thing, kind of thumb rule, let me tell you. Whenever you are writing conclusion for the paper 1, so try to write down the significance of the particular concept being asked. If you have this theme in your mind, you can just mold the topic as well as you can mold the words according to you, and then you can avoid writing a very generic conclusion. So we can say that you can avoid it if you know that I just need to write the significance. So what we can do in the conclusion, we can write down the significance of Mendelian and non-Mendelian traits for anthropological perspective or anthropological theory. Fine. So that's how we can basically prepare the like we can talk about that it has application in today's time period. It is providing a significance while explaining about the disease inheritance. In today's time period, we can completely avoid the color blindness through the kind of gene mapping that we can have, the kind of gene screening that we can have through the help of the pedigree analysis. So it's all about the traits. When we know, we can create it, and that's how it can help us. So in terms of the conclusion, we can mention about it. Another thing, like if we have something extra, like for example, as I told you, now this is the exercise for all of you who are watching this. So again, I would ask you that try to pinpoint some of the things, like let's see you are thinking in the same stream or not. Now in terms of the example, what kind of example that we can mention here? Here we can mention a very random and a very basic example, by default the pea plant experiment. Other than this, we can mention here the ABO blood group system. Other than this, we can mention about the skin pigmentation, that example just to show about the polygenic inheritance, as well as we can mention here in terms of examples the thalassemia. Thalassemia is again can explain about the some sort of dominance and co-dominance trait. Fine. So this is how you can deal with this question. Okay, so that's how you need to create a kind of a blueprint for each and every question. Now let's explain the second question. Now second question, it seems to be difficult one when we are going to have the first instance, talking about the Purum kinship system. So as soon as our mind, while sitting in the exam hall, will see this language, the mind will think that what exactly it is, I don't know. Why? Because random, like on average basis, we are not studying about the Purum kinship system exactly in the same way as it is supposed to be. Fine. So now what could be done for this question? See, you need to be first relax and take a breath and then read theoretical significance. Means this question is asking about the kinship system theoretical significance. So even if I don't know what is this Purum kinship system, where it is prevailing, what could be done? Let's suppose what we can do, how we can deal this question. Fine. So this is the same theme that we are going to have. Now for the introduction, what could be done? In terms of the introduction, I should mention any anthropologist's name. This is by default we know. Now just tell me any name of any anthropologist you know or you feel is related to the kinship system. Anji, could you name anyone? Anji, in the online, could you name any anthropologist? Okay, so here is Radcliffe Brown, and you know very well Radcliffe Brown, he is being known by the name because he explained about the kinship system. You know very well. Fine. So the Radcliffe Brown, he explained about the kinship system. Because he explained about the kinship system, we can think that he must have explained about the kinship system. If we don't want to refer that he gave this system, still we can create a very generic introduction while explaining that L.H. Morgan, he explained about the kinship system in elementary system or in terms of descriptive system. So this is what we can mention. it would be a decent introduction. Then we can create heading, the significance of Purum kinship system. Now just tell me, why a kinship system is significant? Because in our areas, like you must have seen so many kinship system. In so many kinship system is bringing rules and regulations for having the marriage pattern. Kinship system is helping us to determine the caste endogamy, the clan exogamy, all these rules. Who's defining? Kinship system. So even if you don't know the Purum kinship system, but still you can write something. You can write something generic for this answer. I will be telling you specific as well, but this is something that you can do from your side. Fine. Now, another thing that you need to understand, that Radcliffe Brown was the person who studied about the Andaman Island. Fine. Now, near to the Andaman Island, there are so many tribes. All these tribes, they are also having significance with the Northeast India also. So, in actual terms, the Purum kinship system, it is a kinship system of Northeast India. Specifically, if I have to tell, it's about the Manipur. Why? Because in the Manipur, there is Purum clan or Purum community in the Kuki tribe. So, this question is coming from there. But still, you can manage it. So, in the introduction, what we are supposed to write? We are supposed to write the reference of the Radcliffe Brown, as well as the reference that this tribe is found in the Northeast India. Fine. What kind of kinship system they have? Now, we need to create heading. So, heading is going to be, first heading is going to be just to explain what is this Purum kinship system. And then next heading, first heading it would be like it's going to be in terms of the 3 to 4 line. Then next heading is going to be theoretical significance. And the theoretical significance, it should include some points. Fine. So, in the theoretical significance, we can mention about the kind of role of the kinship to explain about the marriage rules. We can mention that role of the kinship to explain about the hereditary pattern, the role of the kinship system to explain about the living pattern. Like for example, we can define about the living mechanism, like it is the kinship which is determining, it's going to be patrilineal, matrilineal, it's going to be patrilocal, matrilocal. So who's defining the kind of family pattern, family rules, who's defining the residential pattern? So it's kinship system only. Some person used to have the joint family system, who's defining that? Your kinship system. So that's what we can create some sort of association with that in terms of a theoretical significance. Now in terms of the conclusion, what we can mention, what we need to write in the conclusion? Significance. So this Purum kinship system, how it is important or how it is helping to maintain the societal structure. You would say, ma'am, significance we had written here, हमने इधर लिख दिया है. So then again in the conclusion एक significance डाल दे. नहीं, यहाँ हमने significance लिखा है Purum kinship system का various social relation के context में, and यहाँ conclusion में हमने इसका basic pattern डालना है कि ये जो kinship system है ये एक bonding create करने में help करता है, the kind of bonding which is important or required to maintain the longevity of the society. Means we need to provide a generic statement while specific with the topic. This is what we need to do. I hope you all have understood that. You have understood the way, and yes or no? This is how you need to deal with. Okay, next, third question. So the third question, it is basically related to the Osteodontokeratic culture and its maker. For the very first time, like it may seems to be difficult one, but this is a very direct and a static question. Reason? Because it is basically talking about a kind of tool technology. The tool technology which is related to some sort of bone, some sort of teeth, and some sort of horn based weapon, horn based some sort of instrument. That In the ancient time period, the Australopithecus and the some sort of during those time period the primates were using. So this is something that we need to do. Now, what we need to explain in the introduction? One thing that is required to mention. Now, again have one thumb rule. So the thumb rule is this: if you are having any question which seems to be indirect in terms of the language, then UPSC or the examiner, they want you to explain meaning of that in the introduction itself. So see, for the first two questions, what I asked you to mention, I asked you to mention about the anthropologist's name here and here. Fine. Here I am not asking you to mention the name of the anthropologist. Here what you need to do, the thumb rule is this, that if the term seems to be ambiguous, the term seems to be indirect, so therefore in the introduction you should start with the meaning. If you had seen my lecture where I am teaching, there are 4 ways for starting the introduction. So that the lecture is available on the YouTube itself, and also all those students who are part of our Anthro Enrichment 300 plus, so they also know the kind of way I used to teach them how to deal with the introduction and the conclusion. They know. For this type of question, the thumb rule is this, that you should start with the basic meaning. And in the meaning, what you need to mention? In the meaning, you need to mention that Australopithecus, they are the kind of person, like even before that, pre-Australopithecus also, they used to have some tool. And how they used to prepare those tools? The tool that this is basically, it is a combination of what? It is a combination of bone, teeth and horn tools. So that's how you need to start. Fine. And after that you need to explain about the body. So body is talking about, like they are talking about the culture and its maker. Means UPSC asking you 2 aspects. One, why they were having these type of tools, so that I can answer their culture was like that. So what kind of culture they have? Another thing, who were they who had this type of technology? So it means I also need to mention about the community which were using this type of tool technology. So I need to explain some early hominins. Means, okay, if any time you have faced this problem, that how to just how to know what is the key point I need to mention in the particular answer, like some must have got some of the feedback from any answer writing or any test paper that you missed the key point. How to know what are the key points? Key points you can analyze based upon the demand. The demand of this question is requiring you to explain this term, and the demand again is asking you to explain the name of some early hominin. If these are there, it means you are on the high side. Now, in terms of the body, what we need to do in the body, we just need to explain about who were the maker of this. So, there was one anthropologist, his name is Raymond Dart. So, Raymond Dart, he was the person who had explained about the kind of this culture, who basically we can say originated or tell us that this is the culture which existed during that time period and mention about it. And he, all those studies based during that time period, they were based upon some assumptions only. So based upon that only, we are going to say that maybe, the kind of language we are going to use is, which is explaining that maybe during that time period their culture was like that, and they were having the bone, teeth, horn tools. It means they were in terms of technology, they were not so much developed. Fine. So it basically specified that in the today's time period, all these people quite possible in terms of their food habits. So what you need to say? You need to say first, quite possible during that time period there was no domestication of the animal. Why? Because they are using the animals or the part of their body as in terms of a tool. hunting was their way of subsistence. Maybe gathering could be one of the point. And in terms of their living, we can also say farming may be not possible during that time period. And we can also explain that their life, the life of the makers, is somehow being related to the killer ape hypothesis. It is saying that they were aggressive, as we can see that even they are using their bone, their teeth as a tool, as a weapon. It means they were very aggressive. So here the another key point which we also need to mention about killer or killing ape hypothesis. Fine. So this is how you need to understand that how to deal and to understand what are the key points. Now in the conclusion, should I mention about the significance of the these tools? No. I should mention about the presence of these tools, as they can help us to know about the human evolution. So in the conclusion, you should mention like that these types of culture and studies, they are helping us to know about the human evolution. Means this culture is not important for us. This culture is not at all important for us. Which is important for us is to understand about the human evolution, and that's how you need to deal with this question. If any of you know now about the osteology, so you must know about this thing that they are talking about the bone. Anji, understood well? Yes or no? Okay, now moving forward to the next part, smell as a signal among the non-human primates. We are talking about the non-human primates, so we can't include here any human primate. Fine. It means you are not going to include here the chimpanzee, the apes or someone, but you are going to include the non-human primates like Strepsirrhini, fine, so Haplorhini, so those. Now here they are talking about the olfaction or olfactory senses. This is something that we can derive here. Now try to understand the key point. They are saying smell as a signal among non-human primates. So it means non-human primates, they were having so many other signals as well. So examiner, they want me to explain those signals, but in the body part to give detailed explanation about the smell as a signal. It means I got to know what to mention in the introduction. So based upon this analysis, I can understand, first I need to clarify to the examiner who are the non-human primates. This is the key point I need to mention. Another, I need, like they also want me just to mention the name of other signals. This is you need to understand, and that's how with this exercise you can understand what are the key points. So here in the introduction, I need to mention about some of the non-human primates, that these are like having so many signals, like they are using the kind of vision, they are basically like they are using some sort of vision, they are using some vocal, they are using some sort of different kind of sound or some different kind of like non-verbal communication. So they have different kind of communication. These words should be there, like you can mention about the tactile signals, you can mention about the vocal, you can mention about some sort of verbal, non-verbal, such kind of thing you can mention. This is the key point. Then here is the body. Always this is the thumb rule, and have this thumb rule in your mind. Always and always heading should be like heading of the body, it should be as per the demand of the question. So it would be better if you are using these terms as the heading. Fine. So heading is smell as a signal. So you can write down this heading, smell as a signal, and then you can start writing. All those students who have taken my lecture related to the unit 2.1, you must have the idea about the term that I taught there, pheromone. So what does this term is basically related to? So this term is about the aura. This term is about the kind of one circle is being created by different kind of species. You must know the thing that if one ant is in danger, and if one ant got the food, why this is the case, that a chain of ants started coming there. Let us suppose there is only one ant and she got to know that food is available here. So what is the thing that other will come here? And have you ever wondered, they also, like, they used to communicate with each other whenever they are going. What kind of thing they are doing? They are creating the pheromone. A kind of aura is being created by them in the nearby region, and this is being considered as a signal by the other. This is being created as a signal by the other. Another thing. So smell, it is being used. Why? The non-human primates, mother is being creating a kind of smell based signal between or among the other available species as well, so that she can understand which one is related to her and which one is their own thing. Fine. So this is something that is being related to this. Fine. Another thing is a kind of territorial marking. You must have heard about this thing, that the kind of dog, they have a habit of just smelling. Why? Because they just want to understand that, like, and another thing you must have seen, that whenever they are urinating, they are urinating over a specific any car, any kind of pillar, and anything like that. Why? Because they want to show their smell and their marking. Another scene, that lemur, they also used to do the same thing. They used to smell. If they got different smell, they will get to know this is not my territory, anyone is also residing here. So this question is requiring what? This question is requiring examples, because we cannot have so many points, but what we can have the example. So it means what? Here they want us to be open to show some sort of examples. Fine. So this is what you need to do. Okay. Now let's move forward to the next part. Next question is about culture and embodiment. Fine. So what is the thumb rule for those questions? Like I told you, that whenever there is and in between, what is the thumb rule? Either I need to tell the similarity and some sort of differences. Can that apply here? No. Because these topics, they are not clearly on the same stand. So what I can do? The thumb rule is this. For those and type of question, what we need to do? For those and type of question, like I just want to show you, application of one or role of one for the another one. Another thing is use of one for the another. Fine. So this is something that I need to do. So for that, what I can do is I can use embodiment or application of embodiment to explain the culture. This question seems to be difficult if you don't know this word. Now you know the paper is available in 2 medium. So what you can do is you can read the another one as well. Now let me see what Hindi word they had given for this. Sanskriti or avatarna. So avatarna is being taken from the word avatar. Avatar is a word which is explaining the incarnation. It means whenever you are using some body part, some body signals, some body related things to explain the culture. And this was the most beautiful question, because you have so much of the scope to mention about examples, about the things about the Indian culture. Like in terms of example, they are not specifically asking about Indian culture, but we can be specific in terms of the example here. So again, the thumb rule is saying what? It is saying that if there is and the difference wala thing is not working here, so we will have role of embodiment for the culture. This is what we need to explain. This is the demand of the question. Now What is this introduction is asking? As I told you, the thumb rule, if there is any question which seems to be having ambiguous term, so then UPSC and examiner, they are requiring you to first explain the meaning. So for this question, we are not expecting that you will explain the definition of culture, but we are expecting you to explain about first embodiment. Then you, in the body part, you can separately create a kind of a heading, and then you can just write down about the culture. Then you can explain about the culture and you can mention about it. Fine. So this is something that can be done. Now after that, you have to mention, like for example, you are having the sacred thread related to your body, protecting, creating a positive aura near to you, just restricting the negative aura to touch you. Why? Because it is being prepared while enchanting some sort of mantras which created some positive aura around you. Fine. So this is what it's explaining about the culture. The person who don't believe upon this culture can consider it superstitious, and that's perfectly fine. Fine. So before having the cultural format in your body, we were just using some symbols that are in terms of verbal or non-verbal way. But for example, some person, they are having tattoo. For example, the kind of attire that you are having, cultural thing that is related to your body, what kind of things you are wearing, so that's related to the body, and that's what is explaining about the culture. So this is what you have to explain in this question. Now let's talk about in terms of for example, if we have to explain about the conclusion. So in the conclusion, we have to just explain that culture is something that is embodied. Culture cannot be separate from the individual. If you will separate it from the individual, culture will have no sense. So we would be saying that these culture and embodiment, they are having strong relationship, strong bond, and without one, another one cannot be have its own significance. Let us suppose we all stop believing upon this sacred thread. Let us suppose if we all are not believing upon this sacred thread, then the culture related to this thing, it will get extinct. Therefore, in the conclusion, as I told you, where you need to focus, significance means embodiment is so much significant for the longevity of the culture. This is what I need to show. So here I would be mentioning about the either the significance or the importance. Now some of you may argue with me, ma'am, importance, significance, both are equal and both are synonyms. Now try to understand. When I'm talking about importance, I'm talking about importance for a particular thing. Like for example, I'm talking about importance of embodiment. It is important. Embodiment is important because it is providing you either protection or protecting your belief system, these and that. Significance means what? Significance means importance of embodiment with respect to culture. Importance of embodiment with respect to culture. So if I want to be generic, I will explain importance. But if I want to be specific, particular to something, I will explain significance. And mostly in the conclusion, try to mention significance and have this thumb rule in your mind. If you will think na significance, I have to mention significance. So what could be the significance? If you have studied so much, your mind can automatically filter out the non-important thing and can add on the important thing. But you need to trigger that particular aspect. So therefore, if you know I have to mention significance, you will mention about it. Fine. Another thing that this question, it is requiring some sort of, so this question, it is basically requiring some sort of some sort of examples that you have to mention. Fine. So what could be example we can mention? We can mention about the Clifford Gust, the Balinese cockfight. We can mention the thick description. We can also mention about the Indian cuisines, Indian food habits. We can, like, here you have to mention example, only then this question would be beneficial. Fine. Okay, so now let's have the next question, question 2. This is basically a 20 marker question. So the question is saying, discuss the Miocene hominid remains and their significance in evolution. So I have to be very particular. I have to talk about significance of the Miocene hominid where in the evolution. Fine. This is my one part. See, it's a 20 marker question, you can see here, and this question is asking two aspects. One part is this, Miocene hominid remains. Second part is this, significance in evolution. So for the very first thing I need to do, 10 marks for this, 10 marks for this. So in my mind I have to create this thing that there are 4 pages in front of me to write. What I can do is I can divide the 2 pages to mention about the Miocene hominid and can divide the rest 2 pages to mention about the significance in the evolution. This is what I can have in my mind. Now, what the thumb rule is saying? Anji, what the thumb rule is saying? Thumb rule is saying, when there is ambiguous term in the question being asked, first I have to clarify that, so that I can tell to the UPSC or to the examiner that I know about the topic and I am going in the right direction. So what ambiguous term this question is? Hanji, in the online you are going to tell me which term it is available here which seems to be ambiguous, where we can go wrong. Hanji, tell me. Hanji, in the online, tell me what we can do, what we can have. So basically, the Miocene age, it is called as the golden age of apes. But on the very first instance, I have to tell to the examiner that I know about Miocene. Means Miocene, they were the early Australopithecians. Means here either I have to talk about the Sivapithecus, the Gigantopithecus, the Dryopithecus. Means I have to talk about the different areas and the kind of species which are being found in those areas. Like I can take the example of the Sivapithecus that was there in the South Asia. I can explain about the Dryopithecus that was there in the Europe. I can explain about the Gigantopithecus that were in the Asia. So these are the species I have to explain. So the introduction, it should be about mentioning that Miocene fossils, they basically include early Australopithecians. They were not including Australopithecian, but early Australopithecian. This is what I will explain in the introduction. Then my body first heading should be Miocene hominid, and then I have to explain Miocene hominid. Now what kind of thing I have to explain in the Miocene hominid? So in case of the Miocene, hominid, I have to explain about all these parts. Fine. So this is something that I have to talk about. Now in case of the Miocene hominid, I will be explaining about Dryopithecus, Sivapithecus, Gigantopithecus. So this is what I have to mention about. Okay, just wait for a while. Okay, so this is what that we have to do. So once I am done with this, now what kind of point I need to touch? The point that I need to touch here is their significance in terms of the evolution. So I would be taking up one part, like let us suppose I am taking about the early Miocene, I am talking about them. I have to talk about their significance to understand the evolution. How? what kind of food habit they were having, what kind of trading pattern they were having, like they were like, although they were not trading, but we need to tell that they were dependent upon hunting, what kind of hunting, what kind of tool technology, are they having any permanent habitation or not, do they have any any group system or not. We have to touch those points, and over those points we have to mention the things. Fine. Then once we have explained about all these aspects, then we have to explain conclusion. Now what we have to mention in the conclusion, see, we have already explained about the significance, we have already explained about the Miocene hominid, we have explained that there is some sort of significance, it is there. So what we can write in the conclusion, we can write what already this studies helped us in the basic understanding of the human evolution. We can write the Miocene fossils, they are crucial to locate the last common ancestor of the apes. Why? Because it's being specified as the golden age of the apes, and that's how we are explaining about it. Fine. So in the conclusion, what we have to specify in the conclusion, we just need to mention about that these types of hominid studies providing great insights about the human evolution, and this is what we are requiring to just avoid the fog of some misinformation regarding the human evolution. Fine. So this is how we can end about it, and this is how we need to do. Fine. So what kind of example we can have? We can just mention about the Louis Leakey about it, and we can just end this question. Okay. Fine. Now moving forward to the next. This question, compare and contrast the symbolic approaches of Clifford Gust and Victor Turner to understand the culture. Very simple question, very static question. Anyone who are done with the previous year questions and who are very much conversant with those terms, they can easily deal with this question, easily. If you are not able to deal, it means there is some sort of flaw, some sort of loophole in your preparation. This is what you need to understand. Fine. So now let's have what we can do. One thing that I just need to tell you, basically the approach, how you can deal, otherwise all things they are done. Fine. Okay. Now compare and contrast the symbolic approaches of Clifford Gust and the Victor Turner. Fine. Okay. So now the symbolic approaches, like in the introduction, what I can do. Introduction, if I will start with the symbolic approach, then I am going to the interpretive approach is going to be untouched. If I will explain about interpretive, then symbolic is going to be untouched. Then what to do? So what you need to explain is, you need to explain about culture. Culture in terms of symbolic and interpretive form. Means you need to explain that culture is something which is important, culture is something which is interpretive, culture is something which is symbolic. So the midway is start the introduction with the culture, because here we are going to talk about culture only. We are going to have the approaches of culture only. Then what should be explained in the body part? So in the body part, first explain about symbolic approach and explain it completely. Then explain about interpretive approach. Like for the symbolic approach, explain it completely. The liminality, explain about the thick description, thin description, explain about everything you can mention here. Explain about the rites of passage, everything, the Balinese cockfight, everything. Explain in both these parts. Then we cannot have the basic performa to compare it in this format. We cannot have exactly, but if like this is a 15 marker question, and if you have to fetch marks, so this is what you need to do. First you have to just explain the complete concept, because these topics, they are explanatory in their term, so you have to explain about it. So once you are done with that, then talk about the comparison or some sort of point where we have to think about the differences. Then explain about the point where they are different. They are different just in their application. So there is going to be two aspects just to explain about the comparison, like in terms of their application, in terms of their uses, and in terms of their approach. Fine. So there is only 3 different period, and then in the conclusion you just need to mention that whatever approach we are having, the ultimate objective is to understand the cultural studies, and both these approaches, they are providing great insights rather than just having the ethnocentrism, rather than just having the armchair anthropological approach. Symbolic and interpretive approach, they are providing us very universal and comprehensive approach related to that. Fine. So this is what you need to do. I hope you can understand. It's a very simple and easy question. Now let's see this. How? It means I have to talk about any ways. Political economy, I think I should take different color pen. Political economy is integrated with ecological and adaptability perspective in biocultural anthropology. Means whose connection I need to see? Biocultural anthropology. In what aspect? Political aspect. Through which way? Through ecological or adaptability way. It means the demand for this question is that if I have to simplify it, the simplification would be like, this is the way you need to do. This is the only way. Means biocultural anthropology I have to study from political aspect, and this political aspect while taking care of ecological and adaptability aspect. This is what I need to do. So now just tell me, if this is something that I have simplified, what you need to write in the introduction, like on what aspect you can touch for the introduction. So for the introduction aspect, you have to touch or you have to explain the biocultural anthropology in the introduction. This is what you need to do. This is how we can simplify. Otherwise it's going to be very difficult to you to just read and to understand that what could be the basic demand of this question. So I would be explaining the biocultural anthropology, it's study about the human adaptation, because it is the only aspect which is talking us about the human adaptation, which is telling us that how we can deal with it, how and in what ways we can do that. Fine. Then what I need to do, I know a very important thing, that there is one person who talk about culture and ecology. Anji, do you know? Can you guess the name? About whom I am talking? Culture and ecology, related to the culture ecology school. Remember? So the person name is, there is Julian Stewart, who had provided the multilinear evolution aspect and who had explained about it. Another thing, I have to talk about ecology as well as adaptability. But I need to see that how politics, political power, that political economy can change the adaptability. How they can change the ecological environment. Now, if our government is like, just take an basic example, if our government is providing some restrictions upon us regarding, like for example, let me give you the basic example. As you know, there is flood like situation, and there is Yamuna river that is above the mark of the danger. Like today itself, when I was coming for the class, I had seen the preview that Yamuna river and the nearby region, it is submerged under the water. I had seen personally. After effect that I had seen is near to the Akshardham and near to the other metro station, like there is some subway, and in that subway all those people who were living to the lower region of the Yamuna, they have relocated and they are living on the road itself. Why? Because government has specified that there is danger. The water is going, like the area is going to be submerged under the water, but haven't created any temporary relocation based shelter areas for those people. It means how your adaptability regarding to the environment, how that is depend upon the political economy, depend upon your political stance. So we have to talk about the human adaptation to the environment. So what are going to be the heading for this question? We have already explained about the biocultural anthropology in the body. We have to explain about the political anthropology first. Just a brief introduction about political anthropology. Then we have to create one heading where we are going to write down political economy from ecological perspective, one heading. Political economy for adaptability, adaptability perspective, second heading. So for ecological perspective, you are going to mention how human adapt to the environment and how politics is impacting. If there is heritability, if there is like lineage based rules, so how those rules they can impact your ecology, your environment. For example, if there is a dictatorship, there is very less chance that public can exploit the natural resources. But if there is free government, let us suppose capitalism, then there are more chances that natural resources would be exploitative or they are going to exploit them. So in that way we need to create relationship. Again, in terms of adaptability, we have to talk about the attitude and nutrition aspect. So if your politics, that is dictatorship or something, then adaptability in terms of the nutrition is going to be effective. For example, the countries which are having very free flow capitalism, there is very less chances of malnutrition. The countries which are having socialism or which are like having socialism, again there are very less chance. Why? Because government is taking care. In the capitalism, people are taking care of themselves. So that's how you need to create the relationship. So what aspect you need to touch? First, political from ecological perspective, environment, then political from adaptability. So here you have to talk about human aspect. So what are those in terms of disease? Now just tell me, India, we are having not completely socialism but mixed economy. So in mixed economy, you can just write down this example. In the mixed economy, we created the COVID vaccine as well as the manufacturing of the Covaxin and Covishield, that is with the help of the government and the private parties. And because of that, we are able to deal with the disease and we started immunization. We did that now. So in terms of political economy, our politics was of the mixed. So this is in terms of example we can write. We have to create a very balanced answer here. We have to give some previous reference and the current reference. So that's how you can deal with this question. I hope this approach will help you. Like during my foundation classes or for the enrichment classes, I used to interact with the student. I used to tell them only one thing, that the kind of approach we were having regarding the anthropology from the last 3 years, that need to be changed. Now we need to add upon more and more examples so that we can deal this type of questions. You can see in front of you only that UPSC is asking application based question. Only based upon the static thing we can't answer. We have to create a very wide horizon. We need to see some documentary videos. We need to add on more example. We need to have a very living thing to that, so that we can provide the basic example for this thing. Fine. So for this part, we can also mention about the aspect of malnutrition among the Adivasis. Like, see, the reason behind the as you know, there is one island by the name North Sentinel Island in the Andaman Nicobar. So their population is declining, continuously it's declining. The reason? Because their political holding is not allowing them to open for the world, and that's why they are engaged into the incest, and therefore there is genetic disease, there is no communication, climate change is there, so that's why it's difficult for them to survive. Fine. So that's how you can deal with this question. I hope you are able to understand and you are getting the view how to do that. Fine. Now let's have the next question. How they are asking, it means they are asking me to mention the way anthropologists assess what nutritional status of a community. So it's a 20 marker question. First question asking about nutritional status. Then discuss the significance of intersectionality of ecology, culture, social inequality in the study of nutritional anthropology. It means, what is more important in this question? Nutritional anthropology. So which is the core point? I have to add on that in my introduction. So in my introduction there would be nutritional anthropology. Fine. Now in the body part, the 20 marker question, what I need to do? I need to divide at least 5 marks here and 15 marks here. 5 for explaining the ecology, 5 for explaining culture, 5 for explaining social inequality. That's how you need to divide the marks in your mind, so that you know where to focus more. Otherwise what student used to do, मतलब बच्चे क्या करते हैं, like they start writing and then they realize कि अरे ये aspect तो बहुत ज़्यादा लिख दिया क्योंकि मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा आता था, and वो वाला aspect तो mention ही नहीं करा. तो यहाँ पर जस्ट हैव लाइक एक बेसिक सा ओवरव्यू आपके पास होना चाहिए. तो व्हाट दैट बेसिक ओवरव्यू इज बेसिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट, so what that basic overview it's talking about. So the basic overview, it is saying that we need to explain about the kind of, like in terms of the one page for nutritional status, second for ecology, for culture, and for social inequality. This is how we need to do. This is the basic aspect that we have to do, or this is the only thing that we have to specify. Fine. So this is how, like now this question, it requires you to mention some terms, some current data, some sort of things from National Family Health Survey, something about the malnutrition, something related to that. This is what you need to do. Fine. Here you can also mention some sort of census data. Like here you have to explain about some assessment methods as well, like how we used to assess. Assessment method, BMI is one of the method. We have biochemical indicators, like we need to know hemoglobin level, the vitamin D3 level, B12 level, what is the level of all these things in the human body. We have to explain about the clinical observations, like for example, if there is a ricket, now what are the symptoms of that? This is what we have to mention in the body part. Fine. Now next is in terms of conclusion. Fine. So in terms of the conclusion, like for example, if we have to talk about, so like exactly here we have to talk about the nutritional anthropology or nutritional status in terms of ecology. For ecology, we are going to mention the availability of the food, what kind of food is available in what kind of region. Then in terms of culture, like what kind of culture is there. For example, if we are living in a cold region, in a very cold climate, then in the cold climate it became the requirement of those persons to dependent upon the non-vegetarian food. And if you will see in the America, 92% of their meat consumption is beef only. Now culture can create food taboo, and in India we have this cultural taboo that cow is sacred for us and we are not going to even touch the beef. Fine. So if we are not even going to touch the beef, then sometimes it became difficult for those who are living in the snowy or cold region to survive based upon the normal diet for their nutrition. So this is what we need to write. For example, otherwise also in the America, eating dog meat is considered as barbaric. So this is also being considered related to this point. I hope you can understand. Now another point last is in terms of social inequality. So here we have to mention that caste can also bring some sort of inequality in terms of the nutritional status. Like if you are being considered untouchable, then they are not going to allow you to touch the fruit of their trees, even if that tree is of community tree. Still they are not going to touch you. It means they are not going to touch you to their community well. So these kinds of things, they can also bring some sort of disparity. Again, I would say this was a very beautiful question. because here there was a scope of mentioning the example about the culture, mentioning about the data, about the terms. If you are done with the current things, only then you can mention about it. Fine. So you can also find in our Sunya IAS Anthropology Telegram channel that the exact theme based pattern questions which are basically part of our enrichment course Saksham test series, they were replicated same in the exam hall, and this is the same approach that I am teaching. Like I had trained to the main student, and I am teaching or training to the next student. Like our batch had already been started from 8th of September. For you can see the details, there are videos available on the YouTube, like how we are going to deal with an exam oriented approach, where you have to just understand the demand. There is no use of just giving the model answer. You will read it and just giving the feedback, okay, you did this well, you did that well. So this is not something that is going to solve the purpose. So the purpose or the kind of thing which you need to do is just to be independent and to understand the demand. Fine. Okay, now let's see next question. Critically examine. So I have to examine critically the drawback in assuming the culture as an integrated closed system in the understanding of contemporary society. This I would say, in terms of understanding the demand of the question, somehow tricky. I would admit it is tricky, because one side they are saying critically examine, another side they are saying drawback. Means already you are saying that there are drawback, and then you are asking me to tell me positive aspect of the drawback and negative aspect of the drawback. Fine. In assuming culture as an integrated closed system in the understanding of contemporary society, means some of the functionalists, they saw culture as an integrated whole with some interdependent parts, and this is the point that they have asked. So this question is about the functionalism. If you have understood or if you have heard about something explained by the functionalist, who was the functionalist? You know already, that was the B. Malinowski. So here in the introduction I have to mention about the B. Malinowski and about their approach, that culture is an integrated whole with some interdependent parts. Then what are the kind of heading I should mention in the body? In the body I should mention that I have to talk about the limitations of this closed system. Means culture is a closed system. I mean, there is flexibility, there is no such rigidity, but the flexibility is not as gradual. Like for example, we haven't allowed the girls education so easily. We haven't allowed the job of the girls or the women so easily. There is a kind of a transition, there is a kind of a gradual transition, and this is what we have to explain. So in the body part I have to explain about that the culture is a kind of a closed unit. Or culture is basically a closed unit. Now what are the basic limitations or what are the basic view related to it? So it is basically explaining that culture is somehow static, it is dynamic but not completely, and we have to mention that it neglects the individual agency. I mean, individual person, they are not being explained, individual legacy is not being explained. It's all about the community, it is all about the complete people. Once I have mentioned about it, I have to explain about some contemporary relevance, some contemporary thing. Means they are asking me to explain about the current things as well. So next heading should be contemporary relevance. Means I have to explain about the contemporary relevance about it. So contemporary relevance, it is explaining about the kind of postmodernism and Okay, so contemporary relevance, they are related to the point that where we have to mention about like how the Indian urban youth, they are blending the global and the local cultural things, where we are using the term globalization, means global and local, which is making globalization thing. Fine. Another thing is, now we are open with the cultural aspect, like in today's time period, live-in relationship is there. Like in today's time period, like couples are having marriages but not accepting the children. Like Nikhil Kamath recently said that he won't like to have children. Why? He would like to spend his life. Earlier these things are being considered as taboo. Now in terms of earlier, the thing is that all the couples, they should have one male child. But in today's time period, the requirement of the male child, it has been lessened, it has been reduced. This is again a kind of a cultural thing. Why it is there? Because of the women. Education bringing late marriages, that is again a kind of a culture or some kind of thing. So now in today's time period, joint family system, like couples, they are even related to the family but living separately. That's also one of the point which is being considered. Fine. So that's how you can deal with this question. Now moving forward, very simple question. Differentiate. They have asked the differentiation between pedigree and genealogical analysis. 3 marker question, second part. Discuss the history and application of these methods in anthropological. Means what I need to do. First, I have to explain about that heredity, why it is important. This topic is related to heredity. So in the introduction, I would be explaining about the heredity, why it is important to be maintained or why it is important to be explained. Fine. First, I will be explaining that in the introduction. Then there is body part and then there is conclusion. In the body part, I would be explaining about this analysis. Once we are done with the heredity wala part, now let's divide it. It's a 15 marker question. 15 marker question, it means can I give 7 here, 8 here? First, what I need to do, first I have to explain pedigree. Then I have to explain pedigree ka history. Then I have to explain genealogy and history of genealogy. Then there is another heading, similarities. So first, their meaning with their history. We are not going to create a separate heading for history. We'll explain the meaning and history. Then we have to explain about the like some sort of in terms of the similarities, then differences, and at last application. This is how you need to create heading, and in this way only you need to prepare. Fine. Now in the conclusion, what you need to do, in the conclusion you have to explain how pedigree and genealogy helping us to know the disease, to know the disease free, like having the gene mapping, having the gene screening, how it is helping us to know the heritability. So this is something that you have to mention. Okay, so that's how you need to deal with. Now let's move forward. Anthropology provides a multi-dimensional understanding of the human being by bridging the gap between science and humanity. So here I need to talk about that there is no such difference. Science is humanity, humanity is science. Means my one heading would be anthropology as a science, anthropology as humanity. That should be my heading, and that's how I have to explain it. Fine. So this question asking about in terms of science and in terms of humanity. Fine. So in terms of introduction, I have to explain about the anthropology, the basic nature of anthropology. It's a 20 marker question, so I can explain that. There should be a very beautiful diagram. So all the students of the Anthro 300 plus program, they already have the diagrams that I have given to you related to the anthropology to explain its scope. Very beautiful diagram. And then here is the body part. In the body, we have to create heading, anthro as a science, anthro as an humanity, and then the relationship of science as humanity. I mean, how they both are dealing, how they both are helping. And then in the conclusion, I have to mention that anthropology is having a diverse nature and it includes all the aspect, all the aspect related to the life. Fine. So this is something that I have to deal. Now, moving forward to the next part, write a note on the Mousterian tool tradition, Mousterian culture and its maker. So what they want us to explain about? They want first, in the introduction, very simple, I have to talk about Mousterian tool tradition. Means it's like if you have done basics of the archaeology, you know very well that there is different time period, and there is Paleolithic. In the Paleolithic there are three. So there is upper, there is lower, there is middle. So Mousterian is related to the middle. I used to ask to my student Mousterian for the middle. So it is for the middle Paleolithic time period. So what you need to do? You need to write everything about it, about their tool technique, about their culture, about their maker, about their life pattern, about their language, about their entertainment, about the kind of any kind of material they were using. Everything you have to write. And then in the conclusion, you need to just talk about the like how these traditions, these remnants, these type of material culture helping us to know about the human evolution. This is in terms of conclusion you have to show. Fine. So this is a very like simple direct question. If you know about the information, you can deal it. If you don't remember, then I would ask you not to like attempt this question if you are not very sure about the information. Fine. This is something that you need to have. Okay. Now next, critically examine. Okay, they are asking me to examine, so I should mention name of some anthropologists who have criticized about it. James Fraser, I can easily calculate. He was related to classical evolutionism, means first theory. Elucidate the place of religion in the modernity. See how UPSC is giving the static question but giving you the scope. Even if you don't know about static, you can mention something related to the current. That's why again and again, if you have seen my foundation videos or enrichment, you know again and again I used to say current. UPSC not directly asking, but current can help you to add on more dimension to your answer. See here, critically examine the James Fraser theory of evolutionism, elucidate the place of religion in modernity. In modernity, show that thing. So for that, what we need to do? First, I have to explain evolutionism. So it's going to be very simple. In the introduction, I would be explaining about classical evolutionism. In the body part, I have to explain about the magic, science, religion hypothesis of the James Fraser. But in that particular aspect, I have to explain about the criticism more. So for the criticism, either I can mention the name of any structuralist or the name of any functionalist or any structural functionalist. I can mention the name of any. And then I can create a heading that is place of religion in modernity, and here the real game is. So here the real game is mentioning about the example. Example is religion. In the modernity itself, they are helping us to maintain the morality. Morality in the sense that if religion is not there, people, they will start killing each other, and that's what we can see in today's time period. People are doing, people are having the same life system the same way. Culture or religion, if it is there, like for example we are saying that like nowadays, you know very well, religion is saying that every single thing is having life, and people, because of that humanity, they started standing tall in front of the Supreme Court verdict regarding the stray dog thing. If you know already, this is all about the faith in the humanity, the faith regarding, like there are two views already. I don't want to discuss that, but this is something that you can understand. Another thing, kind of some ethics. Ethics, they are the application of religion only. And in the modernity, like for example, in the modernity, there is another concept that is coming in today's time period, that now people, they started giving respect to their women. And what is the reference that is being given? Reference is being given regarding the god, related to the god thing. That's what you can mention here. So these are the kind of example you have to mention. People are thinking or talking about the traditional attire. They are giving more significance to the traditional dance form. Why? Because government is providing. Now people are holding their cultural aspect, like tribe culture and all, with so much of flaunt. The reason is because religion is connected with the modernity. So we do not have so many examples for religion, but we can connect the religion with the culture and can mention about it. Fine. Okay, now we are done with the first section, and I have elaborated the first section well. I hope you all have understood it well. You all have got the view how we need to deal with the question. If you have any particular query, you can ask for. Then we are going to start with the section B in the same way. So the section B, it's a 10-marker question. They are asking us to explain the three aspects: multi-species, multi-sited, critical ethnography. So I would say it's a tricky question. Tricky in the sense that if you know about the concept, you can write. There was no such scope that you can mention something different and you can mention something related to the aspect which is convention, non-convention, like that. There is very less scope related to that. Fine. So here we just need to mention multi-species ethnography. Multi-species means what? We need to understand, we're trying to know the ethnography of the human or the non-human or different species. We want to know about their life, we want to know about their evolution, these and that. Multi-sited ethnography means we are trying to know the people across the sites. We have so many sites, we are going towards so many areas. We have found so many remnants, material, non-material from so many areas. This is what we have to mention. And then critical ethnography. Critical ethnography means we are trying to examine, with the help of the ethnography, the result based aspect, the power, the inequality, the resistance, those kinds of things. Fine. So this is what we have to deal with this question. Now next question, evolutionary significance of what? So here this question, I would say not that much difficult, because we have already studied about in the unit 11 of the paper 1 about the menopause. So here we have to mention about the question related to the menopause. Here we have to mention about the mother hypothesis, the grandmother hypothesis. I mean, let me tell you, when they are asking about the significance now of menopause, they are asking us to mention the key point. And what's the key point? The key point is the grandmother hypothesis. Why? Because we know post-menopausal, the era of post-menopausal, it was more, what I would say, more active. Why? Because grandmother, they have to participate for the upkeeping, for the upbringing of the grandchild. And the upbringing of a child, it is the most tough job of this world. And now, once they have achieved a lethargic or a very non-active phase, now again they are active. And that is the significance, evolutionary significance of the menopause. This is what we have to mention. Fine. Another, we can also mention about the mother hypothesis, that the mother, because they want to avoid the risk of having the late children, so they used to have, like, they know, like for example, every single woman, they know that menopause may be around 45 to 44 or 45 age. So if they have to plan their baby, they have to plan before that. So that is the significance of the menopause. If they know, they can handle it. Fine. Okay. Next, Fission track dating method and its application. So I would say this question is tricky. I would admit that. If you know, you can write. If you don't know, you can't. So there are so many dating technology. So in the introduction, what we need to do? In the introduction, we just need to mention about the dating method. Fine. So once we are done with the explanation of the dating method, then we have to explain about, like in the body part, the detail of this tracking method. So here we need to mention that in the fission track dating method, we have to talk about the radioactive decay, we have to talk about the kind of layer studies and all that. We need to give the example. We can give the example of U238 or U235. So we can quote them in terms of the example, so that examiner would know that this is the application of the fission. So here we cannot create separate heading. So if we will create separate heading, na, already it's a 10 marker question. So you will create a separate heading, it's going to be difficult for you. So just write down the fission track dating method, mention that tracking method, and then create a separate heading application, and then mention its application. Explain it, mention the application. Just explain it, mention the application. This is what you need to do. Okay. Moving forward to the next. Again, this is the question that have and in between, mitochondrial DNA and human evolution. So the thumb rule is this, that if there is and, either we need to compare. So now see, there is no such a relationship of comparison between these two terms. No. What is the application? Application of what? Mitochondrial DNA. For what? For human evolution. So as our thumb rule is saying, we can apply the second rule over here, and we can use mitochondrial DNA to explain about human evolution. So in the introduction, we have to explain about mitochondrial DNA. It would be better. Why? Because the ambiguity is this, just to explain about the mitochondrial DNA. So I have to explain this DNA is found in the mitochondria, and it includes 0.0001% DNA, and mostly it is having, like, not mostly, but it is having the mother based inheritance. So father mitochondria is not being transferred, so the mitochondrial DNA is completely related to your mother only. Now how it can help you in terms of human evolution? It can help you to know about that, is that maternal inheritance is being found or can be related. So basically we now started having a mitochondrial eve or mitochondrial era, and this era is helping us to know the theory of out of Africa model. Means, for example, if we can just compare to DNA, we can compare that they both DNA, they are related to one region, one area or not, like as we are having out of Africa model. So here in the introduction we are going to mention about mitochondrial DNA. It would be better if you are creating a small diagram like that, that this is the kind of egg cell, sperm cell, the nucleus of egg cell, the nucleus of sperm cell, and here this is the egg cell of the women, and this is the mitochondrial DNA. Here you can create a representation, and in the body you need to mention about the mitochondrial eve and the kind of maternity inheritance. So this was the basic question. Fine. Next, fertile origin of the adult disease and the contribution of David Baker. Again, I would say this was a very like not really but tricky question. If you know about, remember about the David Baker and his malnutrition based phenomena, you can mention it. If not, it's going to be difficult to deal with this question. So in the introduction, very simple, have to explain about David Baker. So you would be explaining about the David Baker, his phenomena about the developmental origin of the health and disease. This is what you show. Then you have to explain about the role of the fertile origin of the adult disease. Means how adult disease which are being noticed now is the reason of the malnutrition condition during their earlier stage. This is what we have to say. So for that we have to explain about the kind of nutrition based thing, like because of the low birth weight, because of the higher risk of the heart disease, because of the diabetes, because of the hypertension. So all these things, they are creating some issues, and because of that the person in their adulthood, they started having hypertension, they started having diabetes, they started having some brain malfunction related disease. So all these are related to that only. Fine. Okay. Now, next question, very straightforward, direct question. What are the genetic marker discuss their application in understanding population variation, first in understanding disease association, and in understanding forensic. It's a 20 marker question. So 5 marks for genetic marker, 5 for explaining population variation, 5 for disease association, and 5 for forensic. This is how you can divide. Now what I need to do in the introduction? In the introduction I will be simply mentioning about genetic marker, and on the first page also I will be talking about some epigenetics and the genetic marker. Then on the second page I will create heading that application of genetic marker for population variation. Then we'll write point, and then again heading application of genetic marker for disease determination, application of genetic marker for the forensic analysis. So these are the kind of headings we have to do. If you know the art of understanding the demand of the question, you can write relevant answer. But if you don't know, then it's going to be somehow difficult. Otherwise you will also feel difficult how to start writing answer, what to write, how to write, then it's going to be difficult. Fine. Now moving forward, the agenda of the biological anthropology became more scientific from the middle of 20th century justice. It means this question is asking me to be time specific. So first I have to, like in the introduction, what we need to do? We need to take the key point. So in the introduction I would be taking this key point. Like I have to explain about the 20th century, and then after explaining about the 20th century I have to then give the agenda of biological anthropology becoming more scientific. Means I have to talk about so many new things that we can face today related to the biological anthropology. Like for example, we are now having so many different methods. Like now we have genome study. Fine. So this is a new thing, na? Like for example, India now having cancer genomic study. This is something what? This is new. It's extending the scope of biological anthropology, but helping us to know about the human disease, helping us to know about the cause for the cancer so that we can deal with the cancer. Fine. So in this way only. So this was again I would say a very new topic which is asking about to difference between old physical anthropology and new physical anthropology. Fine. So this is the kind of question. So here in the introduction we need to show that there is a kind of a historical shift, and this shift is talking about the anthropological studies, and this anthropological studies they are talking about the new horizon and the new point. Now there is the body part. In the body part we have to, like in the body part we have to explain about, like in the answer structure, like what was the kind of post World War II shift. Like now there was, like you know already, there was some sort of cures being created. We are saying that the SARS-CoV-2 it's a lab grown virus and it spread so widely, these and that. I mean there are so many views related to that, but this is what we need to write. Now new method that we are using, like for example we are using the DNA studies, we are having the DNA library earlier, but now we started having the polymerase chain reaction. All these things we have to write here. Fine. Moving forward, describe briefly the theoretical perspective in linguistic anthropology to explain the relationship of culture, language and thought. It means in the introduction I have to write about linguistic anthropology. In the body, like in the introduction I have to talk about the linguistic anthropology. In the body part I have to explain about the relation of language with culture or linguistic anthropology. So here I have to talk about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and then I have to talk about the role or the relationship of linguistic anthropology with thought. I mean how and in what way they are related, how their thought process is being connected. So for that we can give the example of that Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the example Hopi language of English language, that comparison that we have. Other than this, we can also talk about the kind of singing, throat singing of the Inuit. So that could be one of the example for that. So we can mention all these things and can frame an answer. Fine. So it was not so much difficult, but this was straightforward question. Fine. Now next one. How? Basically they are asking us the way. How the study of variation in the form of marriage led to rethinking on the concept of first social production, then kinship, then family. Again 5 just to explain marriage, then social reproduction, kinship. I would say it's tricky question because we are not directly having the form of marriage that have been changed due to the social reproduction, that have been changed due to the kinship and due to the family. Like for example, the form of marriage that has changed because of the family or kinship in terms of, again, repeated thing, residential pattern, patrilocal, matrilocal, social reproduction in terms of, like for example, the Khasi tribe, the Garo tribe, they are giving heritage right to the younger daughter, not to the elder son. That is a matrilineal system, but it is affecting the social reproduction, yes or no? So that's how you need to mention. So for the very first time, like in terms of the introduction, how you can start. So basically from introduction, start with a simple reference and definition of the marriage. Start with a simple definition and meaning of the marriage. Then because it's 20 marker question, so we can deal with that. Mention the different forms of marriage. Either create a diagram or mention point-wise manner, but mention about the form of marriage. Once you have explained about the form of marriage, like you can mention all cross cousin marriage, the polygamy, gyne, the polyandry, the monogamy, the serial monogamy, the parallel cousin marriage. Mention the form of marriages. Then mention the implications. Then mention the heading, form of marriage, variation in the form of marriage due to social reproduction, one heading. Variation in the form of marriage due to kinship, variation in the form of marriage due to family. So that's how you need to do. So in terms of social reproduction, you have to mention that it is not just biological, it is cultural also, because marriage is somehow leading to the culture. So the social reproduction, it is in terms of the sometimes the role of heritability. Like for example, social reproduction, it is changing. Now the women, they are preferring the late marriages. So the form of marriage is changing now in terms of like late marriages, or the age of marriage is also changing. So that way form is also changing. Form in what way it's changing? Form is changing, like earlier you were having the rules, you were having the caste endogamy, you were having the clan exogamy, but now people are not believing upon those rules. So the form of marriage is changing. In the same way, you can add upon for the kinship. Like for example, you can mention that for the kinship, it is for the kinship, it is being specified. Like for example, here they are mentioning about kinship. So just tell me, form of marriages, they are changing due to kinship. Remember that Levi-Strauss gave the elementary form of marriage. In that he mentioned that there is alliance theory, means what kind of relationship would be there. So just try to understand the kind of form of marriage, it is changing because of the kinship. Means if there is alliance theory that is working, then your daughter will come to our house, our daughter will go to your house. Form of marriage is changing or not? Yes. Why? Because they have decided the clan. Sometimes in the moiety, one tribe is coming to the other tribe is coming to the another. So this is the kind of thing you need to write under the kinship. You can mention here Levi-Strauss. Now in terms of the family, how and in what kind of family you will have. This is explaining or defining your like it is explaining like marriage in terms of form of marriage changing in terms of family. like what kind of variation we can have. So variation is in terms of matrilineal, patrilineal, I mean how it is being specified. We can also refer the example of the Nile community. In terms of family, we can also mention the example of the Nur of Africa. So mention these examples. For the Nur of Africa, maintain the explanation that because they want reproduction, that's why they are having the marriage. Now like ghost marriage, no significance, no family, but still we are having the marriage. Like we have the Pretha Moduve in the Karnataka. So that's also one of the example. So add as much example, as many case study you know related to this marriage topic, related to the family topic, and like add on information. It would be much example oriented. Fine. Okay, now next, moving forward, what are the major theories proposed in support of the origin of food production? So they want us to explain the origin of food production. Now how the change in subsistence economy brought revolution during this period. So this is 5 marks and this is second one is of 10 marks, or even we can divide it into 7 or 2 marks. This is also can be done or can be explained. So here we are going to explain about the Neolithic revolution, because Neolithic revolution is the time period where we started having the subsistence farming, then changed it into the commercial farming. So here we are going to talk about their subsistence economy, how it changed. So simple question, just need to explain about how animal domestication started, how they started having permanent habitation, what kind of theories that we have. Like we need to talk about the static one, Ausis theory, we have to talk about feasting theory or population pressure theory, and just need to do that. Fine. So there is no much thing to be explainable. Now next question, critically discuss the centrality of the African continent in the narrative of human. Like this is the what I feel is, and I have observed that as well, the most favorite topic of UPSC for anthropology to be asked, African, because like we have separate theory as well, out of Africa theory, but this is something UPSC have asked numerous times in different form, in different other ways, but this is something that they are doing from their side. Now what could be done for this question? So here you just need to mention in the introduction itself a very like all those students who had taken the classes, they know what kind of term I used to have for the Africa, cradle of humankind, because Africa is having that kind of monopoly that we have to bring out of Africa model, out of Africa theory, to tell them that evolution is also out of Africa. Fine. So here in the introduction, just to mention about it, mention about out of Africa, mention about cradle of humankind. Africa continent, and then talk about whatever studies, like we have find out the Paranthropus robustus, Paranthropus boise, and we have find the Homo erectus, Australopithecus. So mention all about, and mention about the criticism as well, because they are asking us to explain critically. So for that we have to explain about the Neanderthal, we have to explain about the related to the out of Africa model, we have to explain. Like we can also explain about the Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus. They are also telling us the view that Gigantopithecus, they are out of the Africa, they are found in the Asia. So what we need. Fine. Now next, how means they are asking us to explain way. Theories of postmodernism means I should know about the unit 6 part 10. Fine. They are relevant in promoting social justice and empowerment of marginalized communities. See, they are not asking you the static information of postmodernism, but in the introduction we would be explaining about the postmodernism. In terms of the answer structure, I have to explain about first the core idea of postmodernism, so that I can explain what it actually includes, because it's a 20 marker question, so I can explain 5 marks related aspect related to the postmodernism only. Then I have to explain about relevance of postmodernism in promoting social justice, in promoting empowerment of what? Of marginalized community. So I have to explain postmodernism, it provided voice to the marginalized community, it lead to the critical ethnography. We can mention that critical ethnography means we are focusing upon, like, we are not having any assumption, any hypothesis, we are just focusing upon the thing that are in front of us. And we can also talk about in the postmodernism, like before that also we had, but not actually in the real sense, feministic anthropology. That is the relevance in the today's time period. Now we are having anthropological approach, not just to know the male aspect, not just to know the basic aspect, but also to know the female. Like for example, in the earlier time period, we only just give the like the Nair of Kerala just related to one of the case study for marriage. But now in the postmodernism, we are trying to know the psychology behind the act, what those girls are thinking, how they are being used. So this is the postmodernism, this is the beauty of the postmodernism. So in the introduction, just give the reference of postmodernism. In the body, mention the theory, the basic explanation about the postmodernism. Then mention the relevance of postmodernism for social justice and for marginalized community. This is what you need to mention. Fine. I hope you can understand that. Okay, fine. Now next, genome-wide disease association studies. So the genome-wide association studies, advanced over understanding of health and disease, discuss. So this is a kind of a question which is asking you to explain about the kind of anthropological research, some sort of data and these things. If I would be giving any view whether you should attempt this question or not, I would say this question, because of this and because of this question, I mean, you should not try to attempt it, because this is something which is based upon fact. If you know, you should. If you don't know, you should take the risk here. Here we have to mention about how the comparison of the genome is affected, how it is unaffected, how it is being done, and in what way it is being specified. Okay, so this is what it is being explainable. This is how it is being explainable. So here in this question we have to just explain about the polygenic nature of most of the disease. We have to explain about the link of the genetics with the environment. Here we have to explain about the genome based studies which can help us to understand about the anthropological perspective and all. So this is what we have to deal with this question. Fine. Next, examine the utility of the human remains in forensic analysis. First, I have to explain in the introduction about forensic analysis. Then we have to explain about the utility of it and discuss the facial reconstruction technique. What is that facial reconstruction technique? Like in today's time period, we used to reconstruct the facial studies related to this part. So in the introduction, simply mention about the forensic anthropology. Then mention about the utility, like it help us to identify the gender, identify the age, the stature, their ancestry, their area, their DNA, from where they basically belong. It help us to know about the trauma analysis, like what was the cause of the death. This is something that we know from this part. So in the body part, we have to mention about the utility, and we need to mention this 3 to 4 points. Then next heading is going to be facial reconstruction technique. So we are having in the today's time period 3D imaging. So in the 3D imaging, anatomical knowledge. With the help of that, we are creating the structure of the face, and like we are having the 3-dimensional drawing. We are it's helping us to identify the DNA, these and that, and based upon that we can reconstruct a complete face. And this type of things, they are helping us now to just understand so many aspects related to the life. Like it is also helping us to know about in case of any criminal case or something. It also help us to know about the identity, also help us to know about the gene based pattern and all. So this is how you need to write down the application. And in the conclusion, what utility it is being created, significance, like it has created a new milestone for us. This is what you need to do. Fine. So this is all related to your discussion of the paper 1. So in the paper 1 discussion, like we would be we need to just focus upon what was the basic demand of the question, and if you know the demand, you can deal with. For the first instance, it seems to be difficult, but some are saying it is easy, but I would say it is moderate. If you know the art of understanding the demand of the question, then you can just extract some relevant point. So therefore, now those who are preparing for the year 2026, I would say again in the year 2026, UPSC is going to ask the same. UPSC is going to ask you the same indirect question. Now, if you want to have a full-fledged revision for your optional, we are starting our batch from the 8th of September. This batch, it includes revision. It includes, like you had already seen, that UPSC asking question where current based information is being applied. So these classes, they include current based theme. This class, it basically includes topper answer copy analysis, and then it includes practice question with model answer. You will get the PDF, and in addition to this, it includes test based upon all this learning, and it will help you to ace the competition and to understand the art of understanding the demand of the question. Other than this, the cherry on the top is that I am here mentoring you and will help you to prepare the short notes so that you can easily, like I would be providing you indexes. Based upon the indexes, you would be preparing the short notes, and then you will consolidate and give the test. So this is the whole plan. There is video available where you can get the information, or there is like you can fill up the Google form, or there is like a number available. You can also deal with that and can enroll for the course if you fill the requirement. Fine. So thank you so much.